This is made by Gloria Lee. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I talk about knitting, and today I'm going to talk about the Franky Sweater. If you have been following along, probably from episode 2, you should see I started knitting the Franky Sweater, and this is actually the first sweater I knit for myself. And the first sweater I knit, I liked it a lot. I had a few issues that I wanted to try to fix, and so I knit another one. And so because I have spent a full 43 days on this sweater, I think that I have some insight, especially if you are wanting to knit this. And this video is really dedicated to the people who are doing a lot of research before they choose what to knit. I know I was that way. I went through so many sweaters before deciding what I wanted to knit. And I'm really particular about shopping. Clothes have to hit right. I'm pretty short, so they have to be the right sleeve length. They have to hit the right part of the hip. Same goes for pants. And so I think the same goes for finding a sweater pattern. I would say it took me a long time to find a sweater that I really liked and that I saw. And then one of the things that I did also was that I would go through Ravelry and look at the projects, and the Franky Sweater actually at the time I chose to knit this only had, I think, about 175 projects, which is it's a lot. It's not nothing, but it's quite low compared to a lot of the other things that are out there, like the Ranunculus or Andrea Mowry's The Weekender or Tin Can Knits Flax. Even though I still felt like I was knitting something that wasn't too popular and not too many people knew about the sweater. So I also didn't see a lot of YouTubers make videos on the Franky Sweater. There was really only one, which is APT Atelier. Her channel, she talks about the book that the pattern is from, but I actually don't think she talks about the Franky Sweater. She talks about all the other patterns. I am not wearing one of the sweaters right now because if I did, it might give you an idea of which one I might prefer, and I don't want to give that. I want to give them equal love, but I will have some videos and photos of me wearing the sweater and how it fits. That was one of the most important things. I looked through all the projects, every single body type. I know a pattern is good I know a pattern will be good for me if I see someone who has a body type similar to mine. I would say I'm pretty straight. My waist is I'm pretty straight cut. I have a really short back. I have short arms. And so a boxy fit, I like cropped, but if I wear a cropped sweater or a cropped tee, it's actually not cropped. So shorter things are just better for me. And so the Franky Sweater actually had really every aspect that I liked, and on the model, it's beautiful. I'll show some photos here. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. So I fell in love with the Franky Sweater, and I actually had some trouble sourcing the pattern booklet. I ended up purchasing it from a company in the UK, and this is the pattern booklet. This is Sandnes Garn Softs for Women 2202. So this is the German and English version, and this was released 2202 means it was released spring of 2022. So here's some photos. And these you can see, this is public. I'm not going to show you the pattern or anything. So if you want to knit this, I would suggest finding a local yarn store or someplace that has it. If you order from overseas, then you'll have to pay for shipping. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the pattern to let you know more about it. And then I'll go into my experience and how both these sweaters turned out. The pattern comes in 3 sizes. Extra small to small is one size, medium to large is another size, and XL to 3XL is another size. So there are only 3 sizes, but there's a lot of positive ease. So even though I would say I'm typically, for standard sizes, between a medium and a large, I chose to knit the extra small and the small because the finished circumference still had some positive ease for me. So it's a lot of positive ease. This is knit top down in the round, and I'm not too sure what to call the construction, but it's like a raglan, but also contiguous. So the increases are just faster at the shoulders and then compared to the front, and then the opposite going down. It's really cool the way that it fits. It's not like fitting someone who looks like a pyramid almost, which I think when you do like normal raglan shirts, that's how like the angles end up being. It's like really shaped well. So I think they did a really good job with the pattern in that regard. There is also really long drastic ribbing, which I think is really on trend these days. And it makes it look really elegant. And I think like Gap is doing a lot of that. The ribbing is also twisted or half twisted. I don't know what you call half twisted, because I hear people call half twisted rib, but you only twist the knit. And I think that's pretty, I'm not giving away any secrets right now. So that's just a little bit about the pattern. So the main thing that drew it in for me was the photography made the sweater look really good. The model looks amazing, obviously. And I really like the long ribbing. It made it look elegant and like I could have bought it at a store. And then I also liked the boxy fit. I could be comfortable but still feel a little bit classy, and also not have to worry about if it was going to fit, because it has a lot of positive ease. Even if I was off gauge, which I thought I was going to be, then I would still be able to fit it. I had this issue with the Cumulus tee where my gauge was off, but because the intended ease was like 0 to 2 centimeters, I think, it ended up being too tight. For the size that I knit, the intended bust measurement would have been 129 centimeters if you are knitting at the gauge of 18 stitches for 10 centimeters or 4 inches. Okay, those are the facts about the sweater. Now I want to talk a lot bit about the two sweaters that I knit. So the first one is this sweater. I'm going to show both of these sweaters on and a little bit about them, and then I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty details. So the first sweater I knit is this gray one. It has great drape. It is boxy just like I like, and that's how it fits. And the second sweater, which I finished actually only a few days ago, is a darker, warmer color, and it also drapes and fits beautifully. So I'm going to go over this versus that. So sweater 1, size extra small to small. Sweater 2, size also extra small to small. So I did the same size. My gauge, surprisingly, is very similar. I think it's somewhere between 19 to 21 stitches per 10 centimeters. I'm still struggling on how to figure out to measure my gauge, because I will measure like one area of a sweater and then move and measure another area, and it'll be totally off. So I'm still figuring that out. But I know that I was knitting tighter than was recommended than the gauge in the pattern, which I'm okay with, because even extra small to small, it's 129 centimeters finished bust measurement. The yarn I used for sweater 1 was Knitting for Olive Merino Held Double in colorway Pearl Gray. In the second sweater, I also used Knitting for Olive Merino Held Double in colorway Nature. The needles I used for sweater 1, I used 5mm needles for stockinette and 4.5mm for ribbing. And for the second sweater, I used 4.5mm for stockinette and 4mm for ribbing. So I actually sized down a half size for both, which is very surprising because the finished bust measurement for both was 118 centimeters, and the length after blocking was also the same at 51 centimeters. And that surprises me too, because I did lengthen it for the second sweater. But I guess that's where the decreased needle sizes kind of came into play. The sleeve length from the underarm for my first sweater was 34 centimeters, and the sleeve length from the underarm for my second sweater was 35 centimeters. The first sweater took me 21 days to finish, and the second sweater took me 22 days to finish. And I was not racing at all. In fact, for both sweaters, I took a trip. For the first sweater, I went to California for a few days, and so it kind of like made me knit less. And then I was also on a cruise for the second sweater. But yeah, it came oddly similar in time to completion. The first sweater weighs 400 grams, so 8 balls. and the second sweater weighs 420 grams. So I needed a little over 8 balls. So I bought 9 balls for this. And I actually am very proud of myself for only having like 30 grams left of scrap yarn. After I finished knitting the first sweater, and I had all these things to say and thoughts that I could improve it, I wanted a second sweater just like the Franky sweater. I still like the look of it, even though I was a little disappointed with the collar and how the ribbing kind of like was a little snug. So I decided to knit the second one and make all the modifications that I wanted to make it perfect for me. The main thing was I was going to add short rows. After some of the shoulder increases, I added 10 short rows that go along here, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well, but if you look closely, if you were here in person, you might be able to look at them, which I'm quite happy it's not showing up on camera, my guys. I was worried I didn't do my German short rows very well. And then afterwards, I continued knitting, and I was like, I could do even more. And so I added 4 more short rows down here. I think like maybe over here, like right of maybe 1 round before I was supposed to split for sleeves. And so that's a total of 14 short rows, which I was worried also that it was going to be too drastic, but it sits quite nicely. And I think it would have, if I had knit and decided not to size down for the needles, I would have had a much better collar. But I think the issue now is that the collar is just too small. So even though there is short row shaping, like even if I had this many short rows, you can't make this neck that much bigger. So I think I should have done a mix of widening the neck or lowering the neck in addition to short rows. But I believe because of the short rows, the fit is so much better. I had a lot of extra fabric here and here, and I think it lays a lot better now. It's still very like slouchy and comfy and loose, but it fits a lot better than the pearl gray. The other modification I made was, this is still quite a generous amount of ribbing, and this is half the amount that is said in the pattern. So that's kind of crazy too. And I realized that I like long ribbing, but it doesn't have to be extreme, and so I cut it in half for the body as well. The other modification I made was the bind off. So I did an Italian sewn bind off for both. I didn't do the double knitting, so that's tubular bind off, I think. I did Italian bind off for both, but for the pearl gray, the first one, you can see that it's twisted as well. So I'm twisting as I'm sewing it. I'm twisting the knits just like in pattern as I'm sewing it. And so that makes a really neat, like this is a very proper bind off. But the thing was, it strained the yarn and it weakened the yarn because it's just much tighter stitches, as well as it was annoying for me to do. It just took way too long. And so who actually is paying attention? Like who pays that close attention to if your ribbing is actually twisted for the bind off? So I just did regular 1x1 Italian sewn bind off, which means my knits are not twisted. So everything is twisted except for my bind off, which, can you tell from here? No. So those are the modifications I made. I'm very happy with this sweater. If you watch my TikTok, you'll see I'm only wearing this sweater. I'm probably only gonna wear this sweater for all the content I make for the next month because I'm not gonna have anything done for the next month. No, I'll wear this sweater. But I'm really happy with it. I would say to bring it to the level of being 100% happy with it, I still have an issue with the collar. I don't know how I could fix this. Would I knit another one? Absolutely. And I think this is a really good first sweater for really anyone because, well, I don't know if I should say that, but if it's your first sweater and you're wondering if you should knit it or not knit it because it's from a magazine, and a lot of these knitting magazines, they tend to be very concise and succinct with how they give instructions. So they will not say do a knit front and back increase. They won't say knit 2 together. It'll be like decrease until you get this many stitches. Increase 1, which means that there's a lot of however you want to increase you can, or decrease, or even casting on for under the stitches. I don't think there was instruction. I don't think it said backwards loop. It didn't say cable cast on. It didn't really have any guidance on exactly what to do, which I think for someone who's a beginner knitter, it can be a little daunting. Like, how do you know which is the right one? Like, can I even make one right for if they don't say what to increase? So I really think because of that, it might be a little difficult, but I would say it's nothing that Googling, Reddit, or YouTube can't solve, or even a forum. Even if you go to Ravelry and go to the comments for the pattern, someone might be able to help you. It started raining. Because of that, I think that it is beginner friendly. This is not my first knitted garment, but it is the first sweater for myself. And I didn't really have too much trouble with it. If there's a difficult pattern that you want to do, just knit it. You'll be able to. You'll be able to figure it out. Overall, I would say I had an overwhelmingly positive experience knitting the sweater. I enjoyed, I would say, 90% of the sweater. The 10% is the twisted rib. It's fine. It actually doesn't hurt my fingers too much if I'm not knitting too much, but I hear that that is an issue that a lot of people have with twisted rib, and that's an issue because the ribbing is so long. But if you do want to knit this and you don't want to do twisted rib, don't. You can do 1 by 1 rib, or you can do what I did and cut it in half, and it still gives you that same elegant look, and it still is a wide sleeve, and it still gives you that look. But I would recommend this to anyone who wants to knit a sweater and they want the slouchy. I think this is very trendy. This is very in right now, a really oversized sweater that's a little cropped. And if you have any questions about this pattern, feel free to comment. If this was helpful, please like this video. That really supports me. And I'll see you guys in the next video.